Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanacharya Yamunatira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnu Paraparamhamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtottara Shat, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Paraparamhamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtottara Shat, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's see. So today we're reading from Canto number 7, chapter 9, text 21. Start with the Sanskrit. Okay. Please repeat after me. Maya Mana Srijati Karmamayam Baliyaham Kalena Choditam Gunanumatena Pumsaha Chandomayam Yad Ajarpita Sadasharam Samsara Chakram Aja Ko Titaret Tvad Anyaha Maya Manastrijati Karma Mayam Baliyaha Kale Nachodita Gunanamane Kale Nachodita Gunanamatena Pumsaha Chando Mayam Yatajayarpita Sodasharam Samsara Chakra Majako Titaritvadanyaha Maya Manasrajati Karma Mayam Baliya Kale Nachodita Gunanamatena Pumsaha Chando Mayam Yadajayarpita Sodasharam Samsara Chakra Majako Titaretvadanya Maya Manasriti Karma Mayam Baliya Kale Nachodita Gunanamatena Pumsaha Chando Mayam Yatajayarpita Shodasharam Samsara Chakra Majako Titaretvadanya. Please chant.
Do you mind if I go a little slower?
No, not at all.
Maya Manasrujati Karma Mayam Baliya
Maya Manasrujati Karma Mayam Baliya
Kale Nachodita Gunanumatena Pumsaha Chando Mayam Yadajayapita Shodasharam Samsara Chakramajako Titaritvadanyaha
Maya Manasrajati Karma Mayam Baliya
Maya Manasrajati Karma Mayam Baliya
Kale Nachodita Gunanumatena Pumsa
Kale Nachodita Gunanumatena Pumsa
Chado Mayam Yatajaya Asta
sharam.
Samsara chakramajako taretvatanya.
Samsara chakramajako taretvatanya. Anyone else? You can do a chat. Okay. Okay.
Maya manashrijati karma mayam paliya.
Karma mayam baliya.
Kalena chodita gunanumatena pumsaha. Chando mayam yada jayar pita sodasharam. Samsara chakramaja kotitaret pad anyaha.
Aviral, please. Maya manasrajati karma mayam bali. Pumsaha. Chando mayam yata jayarpita sodasharam. Thank you. Now synonyms. Maya, the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manaha, the mind. Srijati, creates. Karma mayam, producing hundreds and thousands of desires and acting accordingly. Baliyaha, extremely powerful, insurmountable. Kalena, by time. Choditaguna, whose three modes of material nature are agitated. Anumatena, permitted by the mercy of the glance. Time. Pumsaha, of the planetary portion, Lord Vishnu. The expansion of Lord Krishna. Chandamayam, chiefly influenced by the directions of the Vedas. Yat, which. Ajaya, because of dark ignorance. Arpita, offered. Shodasha, 16. Aram, the spokes. Samsara chakram, the wheel of repeated birth and death in different species of life. Aja, O unborn Lord. Kaha, who is there. Atitared, able to get out. Tvatanyaha, without taking shelter at your lotus feet. Before I start the translation, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Translation and commentaries by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Lord, O Supreme Eternal, by expanding your plenary portion, you have created the subtle bodies of the living entities through the agency of your external energy, which is agitated by time. Thus the mind entraps the living entity in unlimited varieties of desires to be fulfilled by the Vedic directions of karma kanda, fruit of activity, and the 16 elements. Who can get free from this entanglement unless he takes shelter at your lotus feet? And the purport. If the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everything, where is the question of being liberated from material engagement to spiritual blissful life? Indeed, it is a fact that Krishna is the source of everything, as we understand from Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. All the activities in both the spiritual and material world are certainly conducted by the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the agency of either the material or spiritual nature. As further confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Without the direction of the Supreme Lord, material nature cannot do anything. It cannot act independently. Therefore, in the beginning of the living entity wanted to enjoy the material energy and to give the living entity all facility, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, created this material world and gave the living entity the facility to concoct different ideas and plans through the mind. This facility is offered by the Lord to the living entity, constitute the 16 kinds of perverted support in terms of the knowledge-gathering senses, the working senses, the mind, and the 5 material elements. The will of repeated birth and death is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to direct the bewildered living entity in progress toward liberation according to varied stages of advancement. Different directions are given in the Vedas, Chandomayam. If one wants to be elevated to higher planetary systems, he may follow the Vedic directions, as Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitrin vrata, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti matya janopimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship me will live with me. The real purpose of the Vedas is to direct one back home, back to Godhead. But the living entity, not knowing the real goal of his life, wants to go sometimes here and sometimes there, and do sometimes this and sometimes that. In this way, he wanders throughout the entire universe, imprisoned in various species, and thus engaging in various activities for which he must suffer the reactions. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. The fallen conditioned living entity trapped by the external energy loiters in the material world. But if by good fortune he meets a bona fide representative of the Lord who gives him the seat of devotional service, and if he takes advantage of such a guru or representative of God, he receives the Bhakti Lata Bija, the seed of devotional service. If he properly cultivates Krishna consciousness, he is then gradually elevated to the spiritual world. The ultimate conclusion is that one must surrender to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, for then one will gradually attain liberation. No other method of liberation from the material struggle is at all possible. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatandvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakandvitam Shcha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandha Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostate, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya, Vancha Kalpatrubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha Patitaram Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the translation one more time. O Lord, O Supreme Eternal, by expanding your plenary portion, you have created the subtle bodies of the living entities through the agency of your external energy, which is agitated by time. Thus the mind entraps the living entity in unlimited varieties of desires to be fulfilled by the Vedic directions of karma kanda, fruit of activity, and the 16 elements. Who can get free from this entanglement unless he takes shelter at your lotus feet? Hare Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. And thank you for attending the class. So we are speaking on chapter 9 in the 7th canto, which is called Prahlad pacifies Lord Nrsimhadev with his prayers. And now we are seeing Prahlad Maharaj offering prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev. And in this prayer, Srila Prahlad Maharaj is speaking about how the Lord creates subtle bodies and gross bodies And among the subtle bodies, there's 5 senses, and the 6th sense is the mind, which is within. And the mind is, of course, it's very difficult to deal with the mind. It entraps the living entities in unlimited longings and desires. And actually, if we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, Krishna explains to Uddhava about the mind, how the mind is stronger than the strongest, and it has fearsome godlike power. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is mentioned that the mind is turbulent, chanchalam imana Kṛṣṇa, pramati balavadridam, that the mind is turbulent, it's agitating, it's very difficult to deal with, it's so strong. Because the mind has different attachments to this material life, which is compared to a dream. It's actually not real, relevant, and important. So we attach to the physical body, the subtle body. We like to enjoy intellectually, and in the mind as well. And we see that body, that subtle or gross body, as the separate existence from the Lord. So in this text, we see it is mentioned, Mayamana Srijati Karmayam Baliyaha. It is also mentioning here that the mind is very difficult. The mind is producing so many desires, so many hundreds and thousands of desires, and then acting accordingly. And the second line says, Kalena Chodita Gunana Matena Pumsaha. So by glancing over material nature, the Supreme Lord, Pumsaha, he sort of like activates the material energy. And then with his time, Kalena, he's controlling it. That's how we get impregnated here. And there's also a mention of 16 different elements, and this is called samsara chakra. And as far as I understand, it's referring to the 5 working senses and the 5 acquiring senses, and then also among them is the mind, and then the different elements that constitute the separate energy of the Lord. It's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter, Bhumirapo nalovayu kamanda buddhirevacha ahankara ityame bina prakritirashtada, that we have earth, water, fire, air, ether, the mind. And then among the acquiring knowledge senses, there's the eyes, the ears, the nose, the skin and tongue. And the working senses with the voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. So that's what we're dealing with. This is these elements, they create a field of activities for us. And we bewildered by the ahankara, the false ego, that actually we're doing things, we're here to enjoy. But that's the bewilderment. In actuality, we are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. But due to this influence of this body, the subtle and gross body, we forget about that, and we tend to be separate. We enjoy separately from the Lord. And in the first canto, Bhishmadev, one of the first things he says to Maharaj Yudhishthira and everyone in the assembly of the Maskar, when he's laying in the arrows, in the bed of arrows, he says that, we see that the time is just like the comparison given that just the wind carries the clouds, that the time is moving everything forward. And time is compared, he calls it inevitable and irreversible. So the time factor is something that enacts the change in the material world. It pushes everything forward. There's many wonderful things mentioned in this text, but this Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25, speaking about different types of worship. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitrin vrata, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti matyajinopimam. It's a famous text, and I remember on our trip, I brought up this text to one person at Crystal Fair. We were speaking to one person named Louise, and she was interested in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And she told me that she was adopted, and in her childhood, her mother, she never saw the mother, but somehow or other she told me she's connected. She feels that she's connected with the mother. She has dreams about her. She always thinks about her, and she wants to know more. So once I mentioned that text in the Bhagavad Gita, she kind of became more interested. Oh, you can actually connect and worship the ghosts and spirits, the ancestors. She thought it's interesting. And of course, it's not recommended to worship any ghosts and spirits. This is just a statement that we have information of that, and it's possible to be connected with your ancestors, with ghosts and spirits, and we see that in some remote places in India. People do worship ghosts and spirits. Like Srila Prabhupada would mention that there's even witches like Putana who are kind of interested in the same thing. But yeah, Krishna is saying here that wherever our prolonged attention and interest goes, the energy will flow there. So if you want to worship, ghosts and spirits, and it's possible. Information is there. But then it's also possible to worship Krishna and attain his supreme destination. Just like it's possible to practice black arts and worshiping the ancestors. But then the question might be then why there's no one participating in this, or why are we, or maybe I'm not participating in this so strongly. And Srila Prabhupada gives this statement in a commentary to this text in the Bhagavad Gita. He's saying that unfortunately many people, they just have no information of the sublime destination or sublime characteristics of Krishna. That's why no one is really interested, because if you don't know about Krishna, then how can you really try to worship Krishna? So therefore our duty of devotees in the movement of Sankirtan, our duty is to enlighten people and give them opportunity to learn about Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita explains that destination is, that supreme abode of Krishna is not illuminated by anything, not by sun or electricity. It's self-illuminous. It's, if you reach that destination, you never return, you never come back here. And in this planetary system, in this universe, there's only one planet that's self-illuminous. Does anyone know what that planet is? It's the sun. Nothing else. So the sun, and we understand that the sun gets the power also from the effulgence of Brahmajyoti. And Brahmajyoti, the effulgence itself is coming from Krishna's body in the Krishna Loka. So it's kind of like it's a lot to take in. But Srila Prabhupada wanted us to think big. You would say that my only problem is that I cannot think small. And he was very, for spreading Krishna consciousness, his ideas and desires were enormous. And at some point, if we study the life of Srila Prabhupada, I also want to aspire for the same, to carry on the movement and also do amazing things for Srila Prabhupada and for the movement. But then, at least I think like that, what is my capability? What can I really do, My strength is very, very little. It's hard sometimes to keep the minimum standard, to follow the principles and chant. It's hard sometimes just to do that, or to speak of developing and helping someone else. So the understanding is simple, that if we have, despite our weaknesses, Srila Prabhupada has chosen us. So we're here for a reason. It's not a coincidence that we're practicing under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, and some of us accepting Diksha initiation. It's not a coincidence at all. So we should be praying to be an instrument in Srila Prabhupada's hands. And if we pray like that, then it's possible to participate in this world Sankirtan and really influence and possibly inspire someone to take up this practice as well. Because the Sankirtan movement, it's on its own. It's a prime benediction for humanity, and it's mentioned that it's actually spreading the benediction, the rays of benediction of moon. And for the moon to be fully present in the horizon, it takes a little time, 11 days. The sun is similarly, it takes a little time for the sun to be present in the horizon. So it's also for us to mature in Bhakti and really get free from all the anarthas and really be surrendered. It takes time, experience. We're going to make mistakes. It's a natural part of this practice. And we should really meditate on this and remind ourselves that we're very fortunate. Like in this text about the seed of devotional service, the Bhakti Lata Bij, it is mentioned, Bhagyavan Jiva. We're fortunate Jivas who has received that seed. So now we can really, we're in contact. We already met Srila Prabhupada. We're in contact with the spiritual master. The rest is just to follow and be sincere. The Krishna's mercy is there for us. And as we all understand, to please Srila Prabhupada, the best way is to cooperate, to work together, to make the ISKCON a great success. And Mukunda Chand Prabhu was mentioning yesterday about how bhakti sometimes becomes mixed with different desires. And we often see that. He was mentioning that sometimes people, they're atheistic, or sometimes people, they they have Mayavad philosophy, Mayavad tendencies. But devotees, they receive the Bhakti-lata Bija, and they might think, of course not all of us think like that, but they might think that, yeah, I won the race. I am practicing the highest form of devotional life. But in many ways we see that even though it's a fact, we're here in the society and we participate in devotional service, but sometimes we have also different desires that come up, and those desires they can stop our progress. So therefore, Dravida Prabhu was mentioning we should be in the mood of Sharanagati, take complete and full surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Beautiful verse in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, Anukulasya Sankalpa, Particulasya Varjanam, Rashishashiti Vishvaso, Gopritvyavaranam Tata, Atmanikshepa Karpanya, Shatvidha Sharanagati. It is mentioned that we should accept things that are favorable for our bhakti and reject things that are not favorable. And Dravida Prabhu also mentioning yesterday that it might be easy to accept things that are favorable, but might be difficult to reject things that are not so favorable. We might dress up in dhoti and kurta and put on tilak and start practicing, chanting with the bead bag and everything, looking like a devotee, but to reject things that are not helping us might be much more difficult. And then Rakshishashiti Vishvaso, it's mentioning that we should see that Krishna is the only one who can really protect us. No one else can really give us that protection. If we worship demigods, they cannot give us protection. The government cannot give us, but no one else can give us the protection. Only Krishna, truly. The world is a dangerous place. There's so many things that might happen to us. So Krishna is the only one who can really give us protection. And then Gopritvyavaranam Tata means that Krishna is protecting us and is also maintaining us, maintaining our full life, give us maintenance, or maintaining our body, maintaining our life altogether. And Atmanikshepa Karpanya, those two things. Atmanikshepa means being completely submissive and accepting Krishna's desires, acting according to his desires. And Karpanya means being very humble and meek in our practice. So that's what it's called Sharanagati, Shatvidha Sharanagati. That's what it means to be fully dependent on the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada would often state that this Krishna consciousness is not something that we impose on our consciousness in our life. It's Nitya Shita Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabanoy Shavanadi Sudachita Karyoda. It's something that is completely natural to all of us. It's something that is within all of us. It's just dormant. It's sleeping now at this point. So anyway, I'll get back to that story with Louise, the Mataji who was interested in Srimad Bhagavatam. We were set up in the Crystal Fair in Golden State, and there's so many people come up, and obviously they're going to be selling crystals. And we were not the only one with books. There was a school teacher. She also set up a little booth there, and she wrote a book. I won't mention what it is, but she wrote a big book, and to display, she displayed the book, and then she also put some crystals, so it's also there, and people come and see. And I think she was also doing something with the water. She was changing the frequencies of the water with some sort of like a tool device, And then we have our table with Srila Prabhupada's books, and I meet this Louise, that lady. She's walking. She just entered the building. And she's walking, coming by, stopping at different vendors. And next to me, on my left, there were people. They were doing this aura. They were tracking. They were seeing the aura of people, different colors. They would. They also had the device. You put your hand on it, and then they would take a picture. And they would measure your aura. What kind of what is your aura? What are you lacking in life? What would you? So and then she stopped there. Louise at first she stopped there to see what's happening over there. She was a little curious, and she didn't go for it. Although many people they would stop. Practically every second person who would enter, they would stop and get that photo. And they even invited us to also see it and take a picture. We didn't do it. Anyway, so Louise came over to me, and she told me that she's practicing Bhakti Yoga. She knows about Krishna, about Mahamantra. She participated in Kirtans before. She went out on Harinam Sankirtan. So she was a little bit familiar, and I gave her. At first, I wanted to give her some other books, this the big set. But I thought if she's interested, maybe I'll just try to speak about Srimad Bhagavatam and, in my humble attempt, try to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam and show her the set. And we had a nice discussion for about 30-40 minutes. It was very nice. I was trying to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam, saying that the Bhagavatam is like a festival for the mind. If you read the Bhagavatam, it's good fortune for you, for your family. And she mentioned that she knows a little bit about Kali Yuga. She knows that this is Kali Yuga. But she asked me a question: are we at the end of Kali Yuga, or are we only in the beginning? And I said, well, only in the very beginning. We have a lot of time in Kali Yuga left. So you better take the Bhagavatam. So I also mentioned that in the beginning of the Bhagavatam and the end of the Bhagavatam, we understand that Srimad Bhagavatam is very straightforward. It's not dealing with cheating religions. It's giving you the medicine to counteract the influence of this age of Kali. And she asked me, what is it? And I said, well, this little pamphlet, Hare Krishna mantra. That's it. That's as simple as that. If you really, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is Ashraya Tattva, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would emphasize, through the holy name and through Srimad Bhagavatam. Just study the Bhagavatam, chant the holy name without offense, attentively, and the result will take place. So she, by good fortune, by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and she took the Bhagavatam set, and she told me she's going to put it on her altar. She has an altar in her house. She's well prepared, so she's going to put it in. She's going to read and worship it. Worship the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's amazing how when we distribute books, especially when we get into distributing Srimad Bhagavatams, it's not, you mentioned now, this is on yoga and meditation, please take and give a donation. You really got to somehow just think about what you will say, how you describe the Bhagavatam. So I really like it a lot, distributing Bhagavatams. When we were coming down to San Diego, we stopped at ISV for the Sunday feast. And Vaisheshika Maharaj, His Grace Vaisheshika Maharaj, he released a new book some time ago, just a couple months ago. It's called 4 Questions. So he was sitting and signing the book for all the different devotees, like a big line of devotees, and trying to get a signature of Maharaj. And so when he was done, we were standing behind him, and he recognized us, wearing saffron, and he came over. And I asked him a question about how we should better distribute Bhagavatams on the streets. What should be our concern? How should we do it? And he told me that you'd given something really big to people, and if they take the Bhagavatam, that means that they really have to make a commitment that at least they'll try to read it. So therefore, in distributing Srimad Bhagavatams, we should have at least a little taste. I don't have much taste for Srimad Bhagavatam, just maybe a little drop by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So. If you have a little taste, if you like reading Bhagavatam yourself, he told me, then you can discuss and you can get into it with people and explain about what are the benefits, why should they read it. So, thanks to Maharaj, and I try to ask for his blessings so I can try to bring a set every time and try to distribute the Bhagavatam set to people. And it's fun too. It's fun to try to glorify. And also, Dravida Prabhu was mentioning yesterday that when in the beginning of the movement, when devotees they had a few cantos, of Srimad Bhagavatam, they would read it. But then in chanting would be a bit challenging because they didn't know much of Krishna. So Dravida Prabhu was mentioning that Srila Prabhupada had to stop the translation and write the Krishna Lila, the Krishna book. So yeah, it's important to have both, to study the Bhagavatam and to study about the holy name and to chant the holy name. And one thing that I like about Srimad Bhagavatam, and I also mentions that I mention that to people, is that it's meant for ultimate good of all people. We have so many problems with the mind, as the text is mentioning, that the mind entraps the living entity on unlimited varieties of desires to be fulfilled by Vedic directions. So we're attracted to better our situation in the material world, and to jump from the tree to one branch of the tree to another tree, the banyan tree, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's possible to better our material situation by following the karma kanda principles, the fruit of activities. But ultimately, no, we should cut that down. We should, with detachment and knowledge, we should cut down that tree. And so Bhagavatam is giving us a great opportunity for that. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for ultimate good of all people, and we have problems with the mind just exactly because we don't understand what is the ultimate goal, what is the ultimate purpose. It's not present in our life. So Bhagavatam is a literal incarnation of Godhead. It's meant for ultimate good of all people, and it guarantees the immunity for the dreadful situation we're in, the repeated cycle of samsara chakra, the repeated cycle of birth and death. And ultimately, we don't have to really defeat the mind as to fight with the mind. We just have to direct the mind properly to the holy name and to beautiful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, pastimes of the Lord. And if we direct the mind towards those things, then we can really go beyond the mind. Of course, if we learn how to control the mind, we become also the master of the senses, and eventually our sense will be purified. And then, hopefully, by the mercy of our great acharyas, we can really taste what it means to be uttama bhakti. What is real prema? What is real love of God? What it really is. So it looks like it's time. I'll see if anyone has any questions. Please, if you have any questions, comments, corrections, additions. Of course, I didn't cover everything in the purport. So if you have any realizations.
Yeah. In relation to reading the Bhagavatam and relishing the Bhagavatam, and that being a good way, empowering one to distribute the Bhagavatam, it's a very important point. And Vaisheshika Prabhu brings it up often, that a devotee's ability to distribute Krishna consciousness is stemming from their relish in Krishna consciousness. They're feeling happy in Krishna consciousness, so therefore they want to share it. So just like with the Bhagavatam, it will help one distribute the Bhagavatam if one's relishing the Bhagavatam. So similarly, with any of Prabhupada's books, if we're trying to distribute Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, or any of the other books, Science of Self-Realization, etc., then we should try to relish those books, and then distribute them. And some devotees, they specifically distribute the ones that they especially relish, like Vijay Prabhu. He's always distributing Bhagavad Gitas because he loves the Bhagavad Gita, and it helps, because he's really excited about it. If you're not excited about it, if you're out there and you're not exactly sure what's in Science of Self-Realization, or you haven't really relished it, it might be a little difficult. But if you're really excited about it, you're like, yeah, get this book, then people will buy it. So that's helpful.
Thank you, Bhagavan Prabhu. Also, Brigapati Prabhu, we saw him in Sacramento. He gave a morning Bhagavatam class in the first canto. And he mentioned a very inspiring thing that inspired me to do. what he does, he goes over all the lectures of Srila Prabhupada from the very beginning in New York, all the way, like that, and he just circles it like that. He always listens to Srila Prabhupada. So fortunately, I didn't have good internet on my trip, so I wasn't able to watch the video lectures. So I would go on, Vanipedia, and I would listen to Srila Prabhupada's classes. I would try to at least listen like once a day. So that's also a very inspiring thing, because we're distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, and so if we connected with Srila Prabhupada, through the sound we hear in Srila Prabhupada, then also we can be enthusiastic, and we can carry the appreciation for Srila Prabhupada's teachings and service and what he gave us, like that. That's one way to feel that appreciation. Of course, another one is to, as Balaram was saying, is to relish and read the books that we have, and so many books, so many books to read. So there's definitely, it definitely can keep us busy and inspired if you read, and not only read but also study. Srila Prabhupada would say that we should not only read but study carefully. There's so much to study, and it's amazing how sometimes you can try to memorize a shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, and there's so much meditation, and so you meditating on that shloka, so many realizations can come, and it's ever fresh. Just one shloka, a few words, it's completely amazing. That's why Krishna, in his holy name and by himself, and everything that Krishna does is nama chintamani, like it's all attractive, like a gem. It fulfills all desires. So definitely it's a very important point.
24. The 24 elements. I think then you were recounting them, because I was trying to figure out, we got the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the 5 active senses. And then you have the tanmatras, which are the objects of the sensations, the sense of sight, and the thing like that. That's also 5. It brings to 15.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what the other 9 are.
There's definitely intellect, the mind, the hunger.
Yeah, you got the subtle, right, internal senses, mind, intelligence, ego. Anyway, I'll have to go back to the books.
And I think I may be wrong. But I've heard that this verse is mentioning 16 elements, and I might be wrong. But I think, again, I shouldn't probably say I think, but it's referring to samsara chakram, the wheel of the samsara. I think that's what it's mentioning. But I might be wrong.
All right, we'll research.
Sankarshan.
Thank you for. I was just talking about this point about, like, in the books that you distribute. I was thinking about Govardhan Prabhu, how he likes to distribute the science of self-realization. He'll tell people, he's like, yeah, this one changed my life, and like he will like explain it very nicely. It's quite nice, actually. And then I just had a comment about this Bhakti. This Latin Beach. I heard somebody say it was quite nice. It was said, we fertilize the ground, the spiritual master plants the seed, and we like protect it. We watch it grow and we protect it gradually. And you touched on that very nicely.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah,
Quick question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Kṛṣṇa, maybe Dravida can help with this too. I appreciated your class, all the points. There was one particular point you made about the sun being the only self-luminous object in the universe. And I read or heard somewhere Srila Prabhupada said the moon is fire covered by ice, which would mean that therefore the sun is not the only self-luminous object in the universe.
I mean, the sun, the moon reflects the sun. That was kind of my thinking.
That is not how Srila Prabhupada described it, though. Dravida, do you have any insight into this, or can you comment on this?
No, but what I recall is, because it may be different, they said different things in different places, but there's this famous purport, the 10:21 in the Bhagavad Gita, Nakshatranam aham shashi, that's the last line in the Sanskrit. And nakshatras are the stars. And Shashi is, of course, the moon. So of stars, I am the moon. And Prabhupada indicated, well, and then in his purport there, he said, well, that means, since the moon is reflecting the sun's rays, therefore all those stars out there, they're not suns. They're also moons. They're reflecting and that blew Hayagriva's mind, and he felt that people won't accept that, they'll just throw the book away. So he cut that out. He cut that part out, that paragraph, and it was restored by Jayawati Maharaj. So in that particular instance, Prabhupada is, I guess, accepting the science, what we've already learned in 3rd grade, that the moon is simply reflecting the sun's rays. But that other idea of it being independently luminous, I'm not sure how to integrate that into the whole thing. But he definitely, in that particular case, he accepted that the moon is reflecting the sun's rays.
Yeah, maybe we should research it a little bit also on that one. But thank you for this addition, Vajraya Prabhu.
But before we adjourn, I'd like to ask a question from Vijay Kṛṣṇa. You there, Vijay?
Yes, I'm here, Dravida Prabhu. How may I serve you?
Well, we just missed you. We haven't heard your interesting questions and so forth for some time. Have you been out of station or what?
I have been busy in such a way that I couldn't be here, but I have a question for today.
Okay, go ahead.
That's great. Please, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, let's hear the question.
Yes, thank you very much, Dravida Prabhu. You're most kind. Dvijamani Prabhu, my question is, because in the translation, I see that the mind is characterized by entrapping the living entity. So it is an entrapping mind.
Mm-hmm.
But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna chants to Arjuna that the mind can become our best friend. So how do you explain that the mind simultaneously can be an entrapping mind, like an enemy,
mm-hmm.
and simultaneously the best of friends?
Thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Well, the understanding is that the mind is when it's controlled by the false ego, by Ahankara, then the mind is just carried by different desires, and it's always agitated. But if the mind is controlled by the intellect, and when the intellect is controlled by the Vedic teachings, the Shastra, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, spiritual master, and sadhu, 3 things. When the mind is controlled by those things, then the mind is your friend. You can use it. You can trust it to some extent. Although in this age, the mind is you should always, like Srila Prabhupada often say, we should always be chanting. The sound vibration directly connects you with Krishna. So, trusting the mind in this age without guidance, without the guidance of the seniors, is also, it could be difficult. So, therefore, the recommendation and the best advice is if you trust the sadhus, then you spiritual master, and Srimad Bhagavatam, the scripture. And if you have any doubts, or whether some ideas that you're not sure whether it's my mind is being my friend right now or my enemy, then you always check those things. You always come and see, okay, is this a good idea that I'm thinking about this, that my desire is such and such? And of course, there's so many ways to be guided in our society. There's so much shiksha advice that if we don't, definitely if we opportunity is there. So whenever we experience doubts, that's the general understanding that we should approach these elements, these things. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Dvijamani Prabhu, has to be expected, better than okay. A very clarifying answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any other additions?
I don't want to, it was a perfect answer, but just to remember, just recall the famous verse in the 6th chapter. Uddharet atmanatmanam, natmanam avasaryet, atmaivaratmano bandhur, atmaivariparaatmanah. One should elevate oneself by the mind, not degrade oneself. The mind can be the best friend or the worst enemy. So it's like training. If you're training the mind, if you let the mind go, then it gets infected by material energy and it becomes your worst enemy. But if you do bhakti yoga properly, then it becomes your best friend because it will keep you fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna.
Yeah, the mind is just like the gunas. They catch us and they capture us, and we can't move. We're there, we're captivated by the gunas. It's funny how interesting how this text mentions that the mind entraps. The mind also catches you, and that's it. You can't do anything unless, of course, as we understand by the end of this text, and in many places of our teachings, that when we meet a spiritual master, when we meet a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, then there's an opportunity, if we follow, if we're sincere, if we're patient, some rules we follow, then we can get free from that material mind, which produces so many unnecessary desires. Thank you. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.